Guys, I'm gonna be honest with you. After the AI crackdown, I don't think I can keep using text-to-speech anymore unless I want to shoot myself in the foot. You are now hearing my actual voice, morphed a bit to retain my rights to privacy. And if you're wondering why some parts sound clearer than others, it's because some parts were recorded in a hotel room, and some other parts were recorded in a closet which I can barely squeeze into. By now I could sense that nobody actually watches my yearly wrap-ups, so I slimmed this edition down a bit to save my sanity, and yours too. But thanks dear viewer for stopping by. Life has handed me a lot of time this year to spend with myself in this channel. After some light education, I understood that, without good market research and packaging, I may never be discovered. So this year was mostly spent experimenting with presentation. As my 8-bit covers have exploded in viewership, I tried many times to make a worthy opponent to what is far and away my most popular work, Magnetic 2803. It has been demoralizing to hammer out new 8-bit covers in this vein, just to see that none of them have achieved quite the same success. In the remix department, I tried to up my production quality by using flex pitch, sidechaining, learning how to master and mess with parameters, though progress is slowing down, and I find that some techniques I deployed have appeared once and never again. You can tell that I really need water, but I'm not getting any. I have no idea why I obsess over the sunk cost of my time, but most of my projects from 2025 were each turned out in 1 to 2 weeks, intensifying as usual in the summer, all because I had more time to be alone in a room staring at a computer screen. However, because of my new minimalist approach, the quality level was largely dependent on how good my melodic lines were, which were often not good. Now this list of dates is quite deceiving. My workflow for most of 2025 went somewhat like this. I jot down a prescribed sound or genre I want to try, wait for new songs to come out that match that sound or genre, start making a remix, then realize it doesn't work, leaving an entire instrument set and arranged bits in a shelved project file, repeat steps 2 and 3 with alternatives until I find the determination to until I randomly decide to power through one of them, and eventually bring something to completion and release as a video. Therefore, most of these remixes suffer or benefit from a common practice called copying existing project files. This was only possible after trial and error on many genres, and provided the groundwork for quick turnaround times for my summertime stash of videos, which trickled out over the second half of 2025. I also stopped taking my remixes as seriously as I did in 2024, and I couldn't be bothered to sit on them for too long, but old demo habits die hard. So let's take a look at some early drafts and how they evolved into the published remixes that you see on the channel today. No 8-bit demos this year, sadly. This demo was the result of working non-stop on the song all day, and the song structure had basically been finalized by this point. The bells were just a placeholder. The cutoff swells had not been added to the synth chords. I changed this chord progression in the pre-chorus to keep the instrumental somewhat more compatible with the existing vocal line, which was too loud and clear for me to just transpose like I did the choruses. The final chorus had its chord progression switched around a bit, hinting at a major key for once, to give an overall more confident ending which I felt the song needed. I still hadn't thought of bit crushing the bass here, so I used 2 bass presets, which was inefficient and made the bass overpowering. All of the instruments except the pads had yet to receive pitch bend. And of course I left the bridge section blank, until I had a quote-unquote brilliant idea and shoved in a repeat of the bridge in the after-school remix from 2 years ago, masking my laziness as tribute. Notably, I had not added the build-up and silence from the final, consequently the demo is a few seconds shorter. This remix could have sounded very different before I found the inspiration to change it. It all started from a loop I put in while searching for main hooks I could interpolate. And out of that loop came the main riff. In one sitting after the riff was made, I had already arranged the demo almost identical to the final. I know that this remix sucks. I will do better next time. There should probably be an even earlier demo than this, due to the timestamp suggesting that this is a much more fleshed out version than what I slept on the day before it was saved. The only notable differences are the muddled EQ for all the instruments, and the lack of a piano solo as I was still figuring out how I should do it. Also, a lot more instruments appeared on the bridge until I stripped them down. This demo has a number of missing instruments, including the orchestra hits, the vocal loops, and the analog art, but the basic stuff is all there. I added pads and a chord variant in the verses a few days after this demo. I left the pre-chorus blank because I didn't have ideas. Mind you, this demo was saved at 2 in the morning with no coffee. This intro was completely dropped and cut to that because I didn't want a repeat of the Air remix, which also has an 8-part intro. One of the instruments was later switched out for a sequence arpeggiator, which was the right call to declutter the song. This demo doesn't have many loops and it was not compressed, so it is slightly quieter. I also hadn't applied remix effects to decrease the cutoff before the beat drop. The last chorus would have been the same thing 4 times, and I thought that would bore viewers, so I ripped the chord progression from the Easy remix and called it a reference. A little bit more cleanup was all it needed. 3-sentence summaries because last year's scrap content showcase was too long. What genre it was, why I didn't make it, and which published remix took inspiration from, or sounds closest to, the scrapped song. I will also only showcase more extensively recorded and arranged stuff, so for project files that only have a few bars finished, they won't be getting a spot in this video. This was going to be completely copy the sound of a Rick Astley song. Before you ask, it's not the one that made him internet famous. The copy of this project was later turned into the Air remix, which made this redundant. This was going to be based on an 80s ballad. Actually, I didn't know why I didn't finish it. It seems manageable on paper. Maybe next year. The opening later inspired the opening for the Come Over remix. Verdict: I cannot make ballads. A spiritual successor to the Talk That Talk remix. I didn't like where this was going, so I shut it down with much regret. And that is half the reason why I pressured myself to increase my output throughout August. As of now, I don't have a comparable remix in my catalog to peg this to, but I quite like sub-segments. Maybe I'll sprinkle them in other upcoming remixes. A remix turned mashup. I got as far as making a rough demo before realizing that everything wasn't working enough to match the standard of the other mashups I got going on around this time. An English version of Air exists, and I got a heat of the moment idea to plug the English vocals into an already complete instrumental just to see how it would sound. The mixing is admittedly subpar because this was haphazardly thrown together 5 minutes before bed. Also, the regular version was very hated as evidenced by this like to dislike ratio, therefore I decided not to give it a full release. Folks, for the first time ever, we have something that is both a demo and a scrapped remix. The instrumental was transposed up the semitone to serve as the test mule for the body remix. Some of the verses were too empty, so I began exploring other possibilities and eventually revisited my idea for a remix of Body since a friend of mine was simply obsessed with this song. After trying out the instrumental with the new vocals for Body, I decided to proceed with the latter and abandon this one completely. These were possible contenders for the AI remix video that got rejected in favor of the style AI remix. I painstakingly mapped the song structure and chords onto the project timeline and then let 3 session players do their thing. They turned out surprisingly well, so I've put them in here at various points as inoffensive background music. They could receive their own videos, but I believe one is enough to make my point. If you've made it this far, congratulations! You've seen all of the unreleased content that sat through 2025. At least, everything I handpicked from my files for this video, which represents just a sliver of the grand tally. Thank you for sticking around for this entire video, and see you again on 1st February 2027. If I remain active, that is. Wait. I do have one more scrap thing that I'd like to show you. I ran the whole script of this video through Google AI before eventually deciding on using my own voice. Here it is now to bid you farewell.
Thank you for sticking around for this entire AI tryhard narrated video, and see you again on 1st February 2027, if I remain active, that is. I regret not getting a professional microphone.